The story begins in the dystopian planet of Terra, where natural disasters occur on a regular basis, destroying every city. There is no specific explanation for their occurrence, but society has evolved to accommodate them. To prevent these tragedies, most people live in movable cities that migrate throughout the Earth. Despite being numerous and unpredictable, they leave behind enormous ores of a new material known as agornium, which is a source of infinite energy for quickly rising nations. However, the ores bring with them an incredible fatal sickness known as oripathy. This condition is a ticking time bomb, and while it grants people the capacity to employ magic, or as they call it, art, with great capabilities, it also predisposes them to a very rapid death in which they explode and disintegrate into dust. Many individuals throughout the world are already sick, and while there is no evidence that it transmits from person to person, there is a huge stigma around it, which is why governments around the world have ignored the afflicted. The torture was so severe that anyone discovered even marginally diseased was placed in an indefinite quarantine. People's discontent grew quickly, and a group named Reunion emerged to revolt against the government. It was engaged in an armed fight to destabilize the government. While some organizations, such as Reunion, chose the hard route, others sought to die quietly by attempting to discover a solution. The Rhode Island Pharmaceutical Company is one such firm. A gang of Rhode Island pharmaceutical members, led by a bunny girl named Amiya, managed to resuscitate someone they refer to as Doctor in a dark laboratory in the city of Chernobog. The youngster awakens, perplexed and unsure of who he is, yet he appears to be a popular item and is swiftly besieged by Amiya and her gang. They want to get him out of here as quickly as possible since Reunion is going to abduct him as well, among other things. As the gang carefully exits the room, they notice that their meeting is already encircled by Reunion troops. Footsteps are suddenly heard, and their only path out is blocked by another group of Reunion troops. The soldiers brandish their swords at the crew, demanding instant surrender, but luckily,
お前ら、ここで何をしている？
あなた方の敵ではありません。落ち着いてください。
立つんだ。おい！
カードさん！
余計なこと。ド
ーベルマンさん！
すまん、遅くなった。
reinforcements arrive. Doberman, another bunny girl, comes with a small contingent of soldiers, with the main support yet to arrive. They promptly dispatch the gang that was apprehending Amiya and the doctor and flee by a route identified by Doberman. The shortcut takes them to a dimly lit underground corridor where they decide to reconsider their options. Doberman informs Amiya that a huge number of Reunion troops have infiltrated the city and the subterranean tunnel, thus their goal is uncertain. They aren't merely come to find the doctor. Fighting will most likely be their only way out because they have probably covered all of the exits. Amiya then unveils the PRTS, a technology that may aid in taking control and leadership of their armies. They appear to regard the doctor as their leader, which perplexes him. He has no notion what to do with the equipment. In fact, he has no concept of who he is. The gang is anxious, and their leader, who was meant to help them out of this predicament, has forgotten everything. Amiya, on the other hand, calms them down. The doctor has been in a deep slumber for some time, so forgetfulness is understandable. What matters is that he's here and they'll sort it out. The gang decides to go on, unsure of what lies ahead, and soon discovers a secure path, which turns out to be a trap led by the Reunion troops. Doberman is besieged when one of their troops is shot and critically injured. Everything appears to be going wrong until they hear Ace's voice on their radio. He tells them to brace themselves for a flashbang, after which the screen goes white from the explosion, allowing the gang to flee. The gang then congregates at an abandoned home nearby. The area has been destroyed, and the people who live there had been slaughtered. While the team is relaxing, Amiya approaches Doctor and says that the PRTS is a potent weapon that may help them plan and coordinate their attacks, but it can only be unlocked with his biological scan. She asks him to assist them, even though he has no recollection of anything since the memories are still within him. Ace then says that the Reunion had selected a nearby disaster to strike this location and were most likely aiming to destroy it in order to gain an advantage in the fight. It was critical that they flee as quickly as possible. When the chance presents itself, the team begins their escape. Amiya observes two uninfected ones being carried away by the reunion on their way out. One of them is a youngster, and despite the fact that Amiya knows they would most likely kill them, she insists on saving them. This time, the Doctor takes leadership and flawlessly executes the plan to save them. He takes command of his team, and they are able to defeat the reunion troops and free the woman and kid within minutes. Despite the fact that they saved the child, the mother refuses to have anything to do with them. She appears frigid and takes her child away, pleading with them to leave her alone. They leave after the confrontation and eventually discover a route out of Chernobog. Amiya says outside the tunnel that the mother's chilly demeanor was most likely caused by the virus. She describes the disease's repercussions and how this prejudice and inequality was the precise reason they needed to discover a solution to oropathy. That's why they require the Doctor so desperate. A news broadcast somewhere indicates that the government has already dispatched military to deal with the reunion rebels. However, the troops are vastly outnumbered on the battlefield, and despite reports that the military would quickly crush the uprising, the reality is rather different. In a moment, all of the royal troops are murdered. Another set of reunion attendees is going right for Amiya and her gang. Drones open fire on Amiya, Doberman, Ace, and Doctor as they walk through a desolate park with their team. Soon, the entire area is covered in dust, and the Doctor is dragged away while the company scatters to shelter from the gunfire. He is accosted by a mysterious girl who insists that he answer her questions. He insists that he has no recall of his life, but the child is determined to uncover the answers to her questions. Amiya glances around, realizing the Doctor is nowhere to be seen, and notices him across the field with a sword aimed at him. However, before they arrive, a weird white-haired gentleman from the reunion scares the nagging girl from the Doctor away. When Amiya and her team arrive, the man announces himself as Mephisto and discloses his actual intentions. His troops surround them on all sides, and he orders them to hand over the Doctor calmly and go, or die as heroes collectively. Ace believes he has a better idea and fires a smoke grenade, expecting it'll work as usual. The gang flees through the smoke, but Mephisto and his gang are clever and skillful, and they manage to kill several of the opposing warriors, even through the mist. All hope appears to be gone for the team as a final backup comes from Rhode Island in the person of Nero. The warrior she takes with her and her fighting abilities aid the group in escaping the clutches of the newfound adversary. Before leaving the city, they gather one final time in a small back alley clinic, a site where infected persons normally went to get checked out and treated. People chose to conceal and use organizations like this since the government would confine them forever if they were discovered. This one appears to have hosted reunion soldiers not long ago, but it now appears to have been wrecked and left in ruins. For once, the Doctor used a specialized Ogorium instrument to treat Amiya and the others' ailments. Before they meet, he uses a weird instrument laden with Ogorium ore to fast-treat their wounds. When the gang eventually arrives at the spot, they discover that it is unoccupied, implying that it is most likely a trap. Nero and her crew split out to investigate the region as the rest of the crew await their evacuation craft. The Doctor senses a large-scale heat signal approaching them in the PRTS gadget and orders everyone to run to the courtyard. However, before the message can be conveyed to the crew, the heat beam impacts and a massive beam of light penetrates the area, killing everything in its path. When another beam threatens to kill them all, Amiya uses her art to create a shield that saves her and her crew from being harmed by the onslaught. A cool, determined evil approaches from across the fire. Tallulah is the name given to the rebel commander. She is so powerful that she can even destroy entire towns, thus Amiya has little chance against her. Ace realizes this and charges into fight, taking over from Amiya. While the Doctor tries to find a means to escape, the entire crew focuses their attacks on Tallulah. He finds one and orders everyone to travel there right away. However, Tallulah has no intention of letting them go. She escalates her attacks, and this time, she doesn't care if the attacks harm her own soldiers as well. Ace recognizes that with someone so skilled in the arts, it is impossible for all of them to escape.
向こうの人々が何をした 口先だけの理想論者に何ができる？私が好む結末を教えてやろう。滅びよ。
させません。私が皆さんを守ります。
そうか。お前が。
So he orders everyone to flee while he and his squad fight to fend off Tallulah. As Ace engages the formidable art user, Amiya, Doberman, and the Doctor flee unwillingly. Before they can reach the evacuation helicopters, the party is attacked by the same girl who had earlier targeted the Doctor in the park. The girl identifies herself as W and demands that they return the Doctor, but she doesn't actually compel them and just walks away with her guys. By the time the gang arrives at the safe location, the entire area has been ruined and decimated, and only Ace and one of his men have survived. Ace takes the man from the rubble and urges him to continue living while he proceeds to confront Tallulah and sacrifice himself for their lives. As the crew returns to Rhode Island, the Doctor notices massive Agornium ores developing back where Chernobog previously stood. The city has been demolished and left in ruins. He also spots a few survivors traveling someplace, which Amiya explains is to the nearest moving city of Lungmen, where they will most likely be looking for additional survivors. Doctor is given a tour of the facility when the party arrives in Rhode Island. It is a vast pharmaceutical island that uses Agornium ore to not only improve island mobility, but also to conduct research on a treatment for oropathy. Aside from that, the island manufactured numerous things to trade with other moving cities in order to support itself. The Doctor then meets with Amiya and they discuss their shared objective of curing the impossible condition. They have a new task in 3 days and must prepare accordingly. 3 days later, the Doctor and Amiya are assigned to travel to Lungmen and form an alliance with the local chief in order to unite against the impending reunion danger. Doctor and Amiya travel there with 2 Blacksteel CMC contractors, Liskram and Franca. When they arrive, they observe that a significant number of refugees are attempting to enter the city, which the Lungmen soldiers are having difficulty dealing with. The 2 are then escorted to the city's chief, a beastman named Wei, who first appears uninterested in working with Rhode Island. He understands that they don't provide anything unique in terms of warfare, and that not all of the information they can provide is truly relevant. Regardless, they end up forging an alliance when Rhode Island promises to meet 2 of Lungmen's demands. First, defend the city forever from the reunion danger until it is totally annihilated, and second, protect the city from the reunion menace until it is completely destroyed. Second, the guy will only reveal the second secret when the first one has been fulfilled. After completing the transaction, Amiya and Doctor set off to examine the city's slums, where reunion rebels may have entered and taken refuge. There, they come upon a bunch of guys threatening a little boy with the location of his sister Misha. They save the child and set out to find his sister, who turns out to be on Blacksteel CMC's radar as well. When they eventually discover the girl, she is scared that they would harm her in the same way that the government did since she was infected. Amiya then shows her her own wounds and tells her that they are here to assist. She'll be okay. Thanks for watching until the end. Subscribe for more videos like this, and see you in the next video.